Bethel Baptist Church. Thank you so much for joining me in this series that I'm doing. It's kind of a new format. I wanted an opportunity to teach through a subject that I love and encourage you as the body through something that I think that we don't give a whole lot of attention to. And so I was encouraged to and wanted to teach through the subject of Christian ethics. And so this will be something new that I'm doing about what Christian ethics is, how we go about doing ethics and things like that. I love the study of ethics because of so many reasons. I think it's a discipline that we don't give a lot of attention to, but in studying ethics, it has truly helped me to understand the scriptures in ways that I didn't beforehand. It's helped me understand God and His demands on us. It's helped me understand the world that I live in better, and I wanted to teach this in a more academic type format to hopefully be able to encourage you on these things. The reason I originally went to study ethics actually is I was trying to think of what I wanted to do my doctoral studies in, and a lot of things kind of went through my mind. But then, just as I was living in the surrounding culture, I really had issues with how do I think through and interact with the world that I live in as a Christian. I never wanted to be a Christian who was just kind of in his bubble and unable to apply and think through cultural issues. And so I decided to do my doctoral studies in ethics simply because I felt like it was one of my weakest areas. And I think that's probably true of most Christians, that their weakest area is how do I engage with and talk through these deep ideas with the culture around me and think through these things. And so, because of that, I would love to offer this teaching here in this format that you would be able to grow and learn about Christian ethics and kind of take this journey with me. This is a subject that I have taught at FCA for numerous years, and so really you're humoring me because this year I won't be teaching it based on my own schedule, and so you're humoring me and giving me another avenue to teach this subject, and then also I hope that you would benefit from it as well. So, with that being said, what do most people think of when they think of ethics? I mean, when you think of ethics, what do you think of? I would assume that if you grew up in the church at all, or even outside of the church, honestly, if you think of ethics at all as a Christian, the things that you probably first pop in your mind would be things like abortion is bad, homosexuality is bad, and then you would just go down the list of all of these bad things that you aren't supposed to participate in. And so the way that most people think of Christian ethics is they think of what we're not supposed to do, that we have to live a morally upright life by not doing certain things. The problem with that line of thinking is that that's not really what ethics is about. Christian ethics is not mostly about what we're not supposed to do, but what we are supposed to do, what we're supposed to strive for, that we're to be for something, not just against something. And so today what I want to do is I just kind of want to discuss what exactly is ethics, the discipline and the study of ethics. What are we doing when we are doing this discipline? So I'm going to give you a definition to go off of, and then we're going to kind of break apart this definition. So ethics is the study of the good. And I'll explain this in just a minute. The study of the good and how we get there. Okay, so Christian ethics is the study of the good and how we get there. The study of the good and how we get there. So this definition can be broken down into two parts. First, you have the study of the good. Okay, that's one. And then secondly, how we get there. Okay, so the first part and then the second part. So the study of the good and how we get there. Let's break apart this first part of the definition first. The study of the good. Now, the fundamental question of ethics is how do we define this word right here? What is good? How do we define what is good? And the reason we want to start with this in our definition of Christian ethics, or just ethics in general, is because we want to be known more for what we are for than what we are against. We are not simply against things, we are for something, and what we are for is the good. And so what is good and right? Now, the reason you see when I have it up here, I have a capital G and then a lowercase g as well, is because there are two parts of the good. There is what we would call the ultimate good with a capital G, and then we would have lesser goods with a lowercase g. So ultimate good, ultimate good. This would be, and everyone has this ultimate good. So when we're trying to think of ethics, we're trying to define what would we call the ultimate good. Now, there's a lot of different answers people would give to this. Ultimate good could be reason, a deity, a science, the self, human flourishing. What is the ultimate good that we are looking for? The lesser goods would be things that are derived from that. So for instance, a lesser good, we might say, is marriage. Marriage is a good. It's not the ultimate good of human life, but it is a lesser good. And so when we understand what our ultimate goods are, we can then derive what our lesser goods are for. So for instance, we would say the ultimate good is God, and we'll get into more detail on this in later things, but our ultimate good is God. And because our ultimate good is God, he has laid out an order in creation, and one of which would be the lesser goods of marriage. And so from understanding our ultimate good being God and a lesser good being marriage, going back to the idea of abortion, why is it that we are against abortion? Or we are against homosexuality, excuse me. Why are we against homosexuality? When we are against homosexuality, it isn't simply because we are against homosexuality, but because we are for goods, specific goods. We are for marriage, which is a good that leads us to the ultimate good. And so the first thing we always have to do in the study of Christian ethics is we have to, when we're trying to figure out what ethics is we first have to define the word good. It is essential that we have that definition. Now, the second part of the definition is how we get there. How we get there. This part of the definition leads us to application questions. So this would be dealing with application. Application. Once we have identified some sort of good, we have to then define or create a system or understand how we are going to reach that good. So, for example, if we're going to say that marriage is a good that is out there, then we would have to go about seeking it. How are we going to, when we are seeking marriage, how will we seek it in society? What will it look like to promote it as good? What will it look like in our society, in our culture, in our church to protect it and make sure that it flourishes in society? What should we avoid to make sure that marriage is upheld, etc.? All of those things. Okay, so that's kind of a basic definition of ethics. What is ethics? It is the study of the good and how we get there. The good can be the ultimate good or the lesser goods. And then how we get there is the application, the way in which we go about it. Now, these two parts of the definition in the study or the discipline of ethics are broken into two parts. And I'm just going to give you these phrases just for your own understanding. This is called ethical theory. And this part is ethical practice. Ethical theory and ethical practice. Ethical theory is the philosophy behind something. We might call it the worldview that someone has, how we define the good. And then ethical practice is how someone lives based upon their worldview. Now, the last thing I'm going to say today, last major term I'm going to give you today to kind of wrestle with is going to be ethical system. Ethical system. An ethical system. So, an ethical system then is how someone combines all of this together in their life. How this whole thing fits together in their life. And how you view the good and how you strive it. How you put together your theory and your practice. You might have heard terms like orthodoxy and orthopraxy. Orthodoxy is what we believe. Orthopraxy is how we practice it. Very similar in ethics. Ethical theory, ethical practice. When those things come together, you have created an ethical system together. Now, I want to address one other thing here today as we start to kind of wind this down. A lot of terms, a lot going on here. I think that Christians, one of our problems when we deal with Christian ethics is that Christians very quickly jump to the second part of the definition, very quickly. Don't live a certain way. We're going to judge these actions of these people out there. And this is why I think the study of ethics is so important and can be so helpful for you as it has been for me. Because I think that one of the primary ways, I'm just going to hammer on this for a minute, one of the primary things that the study of ethics can do for you is help you engage in the surrounding culture. Because most people, actually everybody, has an ethical system. Everybody is living by some sort of code based on their worldview. So everybody makes actions based on their worldview. And as Christians, what we do very problematically is we jump to the application. We see that they're for abortion. We see that they're for homosexuality. And then we start to attack those things. But what we realize, what we're forgetting is that their application comes a part of an entire system that includes how they define the word good. And so really we problematically start attacking people's views on certain things and telling them that they need to live differently or do different things differently. But what's so problematic about that is that we haven't addressed the underlying issue as what they have defined as good. When we understand both parts of it, we can understand the philosophy and the reasons why somebody is acting the way that they are acting. And so when you see someone acting the wrong way, I think it's very important for us to, or even for us, I mean, this is application for us as well. Whenever you see someone do something that you would say is wrong, ask yourself this: how might this person be defining the word good? And how might that definition of the word good be influencing the way in which they are applying it? And this is why I love the study of ethics, because it requires us to get past the surface level of both ourselves and others. If I am in sin, if I'm doing something wrong, I have the ability then to say, okay, in this moment, what do I think is most valuable? What do I think is good? That's the underlying problem that needs to be addressed, not just the system or the application that I am doing. And so I love the study of ethics. And so here's my plan moving forward as we continue to study this. So this is ethics in a big picture overview. So then moving forward, what I hope to do with this class is that we're going to start moving through how different people create their ethical system. How do we go about making a moral decision? And I want to specifically focus on, for a couple weeks at least, maybe even more, what I'm going to spend some time doing with you is I'm going to get into some non-Christian versions of ethical systems. We're going to start looking at different ethical systems out there, including cultural relativism, ethical egoism, there's a utilitarian system, a Kantian ethics, a virtue ethics, a whole bunch more. There's a lot of different ethical systems that people are living their life by right now, unknowingly that that's what they're doing. And so we're going to look at these ethical systems out there, and we're going to look at how they're defining good and then how they're going about applying that in their lives based upon their system. And I think once we do that, we can start seeing what kind of culture we're living in. And then from there, we can start to decide and look through the scriptures to figure out what a Christian ethical system is. Okay, well, I hope this first class was helpful for you. I hope that it's helped you understand the study of ethics and why I enjoy it so much. These are going to be some deep waters that we're going to be going through. We'll take it slow. I hope that at the end of this that you're able to come away with a more Christian ethical system, that as you work through this process, that this should be helpful for you. So thanks again for tuning in to this first class.